Welcome back to another episode of One Voice Many Stories. I'm your host, Kevin Bradford. Let's dive right into it. You don't forget the sound of a phone you didn't answer. Not the ring, not the time step, not the silence that followed. The call came in at 9:42 p.m. You saw it, you let it pass, you told yourself you would get it later. But later never showed up. The name on the screen wasn't someone you was close to, not family, not a best friend, not someone who calls just to talk. It was Ellis Ward, quiet, kept to himself, never asked anyone for anything. That's why the call should have meant more. But you were tired, you were busy, you were in the middle of something that felt important at the moment. So you let it ring out. The voicemail didn't hit you until the next morning. You woke up to a different kind of quiet, not peaceful, not calm, just off. You checked your phone, one missed call, one voicemail, no follow-up text. That's when your stomach dropped. People who are fine send follow-ups. People who are fine try again. People who are fine don't leave silence behind them. You pressed play. The voice wasn't shaking, wasn't dramatic, wasn't emotional. That what made it worse. It was a voice of someone trying to hold himself together long enough to say something he didn't want to say twice. You replayed it, then you replayed it again, not because you didn't understand it, but because you didn't understand why he chose you. You weren't his closest person. You weren't the one he confided in. You weren't the one he leaned on. Maybe that's exactly why he called. Sometimes people reach out to a person who feels safest, not because you're close, but because you're neutral. Someone who won't judge, someone who won't panic, someone who won't make it about themselves. You were that person for Ellis, and you didn't pick up. You sat on the bed replaying a moment you missed, not because you were guilty, not because you were responsible, but because you were human. And being human comes with blind spots. You thought about calling them back, you thought about texting, you thought about pretending you didn't see the notification until morning. But the truth was already sitting in your chest. You knew something was off. You felt it. You ignored it. And now the silence felt heavier than the call itself. This wasn't the beginning of Ellis' story. It was the beginning of yours. Because this episode wasn't about what happened to him. It was about what his call exposed in you. Your distance, your avoidance, your habit of assuming people is okay because it's easier than asking if they're not. Ellis didn't break your world. He revealed it. And once something is revealed, it can't be unseen. You walked to the door, stopped, stared at the light under it. It looked the same as every other morning, but it didn't feel the same. You didn't know it yet, but this was the moment everything shifted. Not because of what Ellis said, but because of what he didn't get the chance to say. And because you were the one who didn't answer. And that's the part that stayed with you longer than the voicemail. Not the words, not the tone, not the timestamp. The responsibility, not guilt responsibility. The kind that doesn't accuse you, but forces you to look at yourself without the excuses you usually hide behind. You walked in the kitchen with the phone in your hand, still replaying the call in your head. Even though you hadn't pressed play again. You didn't need to. The silence after his last word was already burned into you. You kept thinking about the way he said your name. Not desperate, not dramatic, just tired. Like he'd been carrying something for too long. And finally reached the point to where he couldn't hold it alone anymore. And he chose you. You didn't ask for that. You didn't sign up for that. But life doesn't ask for permission before it hands you a moment that will change you. You leaned against the counter staring at the floor trying to figure out what you were supposed to do next. Call him back, text him, pretend you didn't hear it until now. None of those options felt right. None of them felt enough. Because the truth was simpler than heavy. You wasn't there when he needed you, and now you didn't know what he needed anymore. You opened your message, typed something, delete it, type something else, delete that too. Everything sounded wrong. Everything sounded late. You checked his social media, nothing. You checked mutual friends, no updates. You checked your call log again like it would change the outcome. It didn't. The world kept moving like nothing happened, but you felt a shift. A small one, quiet, but real. Because once somebody reach out to you in a moment like that, you don't get to go back to who you were before the call. You don't get to pretend you didn't hear the weight in their voice. You don't get to act like you weren't chosen. You were, and you missed it. You finally sat down, elbows on your knee, phone resting between your hands. Not moving, not thinking, just sitting with the truth you didn't want. Sometimes the moment that changes you is the one you didn't show up for. And this was yours. You didn't know what Ellis was facing. You didn't know what he was carrying. You didn't know what he was trying to say before he lost the nerve. But you knew one thing with absolute clarity. You couldn't ignore it anymore. Not the car, not the silence. Not the part of yourself that avoids the uncomfortable because it's easy to pretend like you didn't see it. You stood up slowly like the room had gotten heavier. And for the first time since you woke up, you knew exactly what you had to do next. You had to call him back, not because you owe him, not because you were trying to fix anything, because answering late is still better than not answering at all. You took a breath, pressed his name, held the phone to your ear. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3. And in that space, that thin line between connection and silence, you realized something you weren't ready to admit. This wasn't just about Ellis, it was about you, and a part of you that finally understood what it means when someone reaches out to you before they disappear. Thank you for listening to another episode of One Voice Many Stories.